Hi. So today I'm going to show you how to complete the Columbia Suicide Scale. Okay, and most people just refer to it as the Columbia. It's very easy to find this, and it's actually a very easy scale to complete. It's designed for people who don't even have a mental health background or any mental health training to be able to provide this suicide scale. So that's how basic and straightforward the questions are. However, the biggest thing is to remember when you do this scale, okay? So anytime a new diagnosis for a person is entered into Profiler, that is the F32 or F33 ICD-10 code. Okay, so what does that mean in English? Basically, anytime someone has a diagnosis of depressive disorder, or a change. So let's say if you're changing it from major depressive disorder, single episode, to major depressive disorder, recurrent, that qualifies them to need another Columbia, okay? There's even some talks that eventually a Columbia might be needed for anyone who is getting a diagnosis in the system, no matter what their diagnosis is. But for right now, it is those people who have those depressive disorder category. Okay. One caveat, because emergency services is already doing a pre-screen, which is a much more involved assessment, emergency services is exempt from this particular assessment. Okay. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. So I'm going to show you how to complete it. I have my training client, Hermione Granger. Her chart is up right here. Okay, and if I want to do the Columbia for Hermione, I'm going to go to this thin cross, this little small, tiny green UDD button, all the way to the right of where I entered her chart number to pull it up. Okay, so it's at the client level, we would refer to that. So I'm going to click on the plus. Okay, and I'm going to expand my column so I can see what's already been completed. I can see she has an informed consent. She does not have a Columbia. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this plus right here. And in the form drop-down menu, there's one called Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale. Okay, so that's what you want. You want to click on that and select open. Okay, so once this loads, it's going to pull the person's ID number and name at the top, and then you select in the drop-down which program that you work for that you're completing this suicide scale. Okay, I'm going to use iCare as an example, because the diagnosis in iCare gets changed quite a bit, and so they are one of the prominent programs that uses this Columbia scale. However, anyone in any program who adds an additional diagnosis in the Profiler that is a new diagnosis has access to complete this and should be completing it when it is one of those diagnosis changes that we're talking about. Okay. So then you select the assessment type, and we're usually going to do the past month. This scale is assessing for recent suicide ideation. Okay. And it gives you all the directions you need. Ask questions that are bolded and underlined, or ask questions 1 and 2. So this is how it works. So wishes to be dead. Person endorses thoughts about a wish to be dead or not be alive anymore. So the part that's underlined is what you actually asked the person, okay? And I realize right now that we are doing a lot of services remotely because we are in pandemic mode. These questions can absolutely be asked over the phone. There's nothing that the person needs to sign to endorse this. This is an assessment, okay? Have you wished you were dead or wished you could go to sleep and not wake up? You ask just like that, okay? Like I said, this is designed for people with no mental health background to be able to help and assist someone in order to prevent suicide. So if the person answers yes, okay, then you go to question 2. We would go to question 2 anyway. Suicidal thoughts, general non-specific thoughts of wanting to end one's life. The question is, have you actually had any thoughts of killing yourself? Research has shown that you actually have to ask the question just like that. Okay, don't beat around the bush. You want to be very direct. Okay, so I'm going to say, for example, yes. See what happens when you select yes to that question? It asks for more specific information. We want to make sure that if the person ever has, then we have addressed their needs and connected them to supports if needed. So that's why if you select yes to question 2, then it creates more questions. If you select no to question 2, then it just goes right to question 6. Okay, so that 1, 2, 6 is not an error, it's intentional. Okay, because you only answer all those supplemental questions if they answer yes to, have you actually had thoughts of killing yourself? Okay. So if it's a no to number 6, okay, again, nothing else happens. It also gives you an example if you need to, if they ask questions or ask you to clarify. So it really does prompt you so that you can select the right yes or no and that you know how to ask the question. And then the next part is, if yes to 6, then how long ago? Okay. So based on that assessment, we're not just going to do the assessment and throw it into Profiler. If they screen as a high risk, then that is your cue to contact emergency services. You know, if you're concerned about their intent, if they have a plan, all these additional questions. Okay, so you would use your clinical judgment when deciding what to do next, even though the form is very simple and straightforward as to how you ask the questions. So when you've completed this, you want to final save. Remember, final save locks it, so your answers cannot be changed after you've saved it. I'm going to click the effective date box. That tells me the date that the Columbia was completed. Okay, and then I click save. And it's right there. Okay. One important thing to note, I'm going to double click on it so I can open it for you. Okay. The date on the Columbia here, so this is me, tells me the date that I've completed this, has to match the date that I have entered in as their diagnosis. So it is important, very important, that you ask these questions on the same day that the diagnosis is made or entered into Profiler. Okay, so the dates matter. If I put the diagnosis in yesterday, I would have needed to complete this assessment yesterday. So it's not something that you want to wait and complete later. You definitely want to do and ask the questions on the same day as you are doing that diagnosis information. Okay, so now I just close. It's all complete. It will look for a diagnosis to match that date. I have a different video on how to add that diagnosis in. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And thank you. I hope you have a great day.